When Magistrate Harlan began reciting the list of my holdings, it marked the first moment in those grueling 4 hours of proceedings that I actually glanced across the room at the man who'd once been my husband, my former husband, to be precise. Marcus Hale lingered near the respondent's bench, appearing far less like the polished regional manager he'd always projected, and more like a statue frozen mid-collapse, as if some unseen force had clubbed him from behind. His lips parted just a fraction, his stare vacant and unblinking, while tiny rivulets of perspiration traced paths along his thinning temples. A sleek 2-bedroom loft spanning 950 square feet in the heart of bustling Pioneer Square, Seattle. Magistrate Harlan, a nonsense woman in her late 50s with the shadowed gaze of someone who'd waded through countless fractured unions, droned on from the case file in her steady baritone. A cozy craftsman bungalow in the leafy suburbs of Bellevue, 1,400 square feet on a half-acre plot zoned for light gardening exemptions. A modest retail unit on First Avenue, presently occupied by an upscale artisanal cafe. "This has to be some colossal error, a blatant fabrication," wailed my ex-mother-in-law, Evelyn Hale, surging from the gallery seats like a dowager denied her throne, her complexion, typically dusted with the flawless veneer of old money poise, now blazed scarlet. That penniless nobody couldn't possibly possess a dime. She couldn't even afford a fresh pair of gloves last winter. She's still in that threadbare coat from ages ago. The magistrate peered sternly over the half-moons of her spectacles, a gesture as routine as breathing in her domain. "I insist on decorum in this chamber, Mrs. Hale. One more disruption, and the bailiff will escort you out without ceremony." Evelyn slumped back with a theatrical huff, though her venomous whispers slithered through the air like serpents, her glare boring into me as if sheer malice could incinerate me on the spot. A peculiar, icy serenity enveloped me then, like frost glazing a windowpane. It was impossible not to recall that crisp afternoon 6 years earlier, when this same Evelyn had flung wide the polished mahogany doors of her sprawling colonial estate in Medina, enveloping me in an embrace laced with saccharine approval. "At last, my Marcus has discovered a sensible young woman, solid roots. My dear, you're a keeper." She'd sized me up in that instant, my reserved nature, my practical wool skirt, the tidy studio condo bequeathed by my late aunt. I registered as reliable, pliable. How utterly the tides had shifted since that orchestrated embrace. Marcus and I had crossed paths at an elite recovery spa tucked into the rugged cliffs of Big Sur, California. I was there enduring the raw, bone-deep therapy for a lingering shoulder injury from the highway crash that had claimed my fiancé's life for years before. That wreck hadn't merely scarred my flesh, it had pulverized my spirit, consigning me to a cloistered existence in my entry-level bookkeeping role at a community clinic in Seattle. I rattled around in that compact studio alone, acclimated to a rhythm of muted evenings and solitary suppers. Marcus, 40, and impeccably groomed, was on a prescribed sabbatical from his high-stakes role, managing sales for a sprawling logistics conglomerate. He embodied triumph, towering, toned from weekend hikes, with a chiseled jaw softened by a rehearsed grin that pierced my carefully erected walls. I was 30, raw and unguarded. He swept into my orbit like a summer squall, fierce and unrelenting. He wooed me with extravagant, flair-lavish whispers over sunset views, cascades of orchids that choked my tiny space with their cloying perfume. Barely 3 months after we'd relocated to Seattle, he dropped to one knee amid flickering lanterns at a harborside bistro, vowing a haven of security and the clamor of a vibrant household. I confused his fervor for devotion. Our ceremony was intimate, understated. I craved no spectacle, deeming it a betrayal of the ghosts I still mourned. His kin, however, decreed that amid such turbulent eras, it was wiser to channel funds into bricks and mortar, a notion I endorsed with numb acquiescence. Evelyn extended a frosty civility at first, the sort that appraised rather than affirmed. I chalked it up to a matriarch's rite of passage, testing the mettle of her son's bride. Victor, my father-in-law, was a softer presence, a shadow yielding to his wife's ironclad decrees in all hearthside affairs. That inaugural year of wedlock shimmered with authentic bliss on the surface. We leased a sleek high-rise unit proximate to Marcus's thriving enterprise, syncing our days into a seamless duet, mapping tomorrows with tentative strokes. I clung to my ledger balancing post, while Marcus's ascent gathered momentum. We epitomized the glossy duo from Lifestyle Glossies, popping over to Evelyn and Victor's for robust Sunday suppers. where Evelyn commandeered the kitchen with imperious flair. The gloss began to flake the instant conception bloomed. Initial elation rippled through us like wildfire, nearly intoxicating. Evelyn Hale, paragon of stoic reserve, even misted over, at long last, an heir. I sense it in my Maroa lad, to carry Marcus's legacy. Marcus fussed like a doting brood hen, stocking our shelves with every prenatal elixir under the sun, and enrolling me in the city's premier maternity suite under the finest practitioners. Perfection was his mantra. Yet at the follow-up scan, Dr. Langford, a compassionate yet detached midwife, tilted her head, her brow furrowing as she traced the ethereal glow of the sonogram. Notice this nuchal translucency, Alina. She indicated the hazy outline of our nascent miracle. It's elevated. There's a heightened chance of a trisomy. I'll forward you for advanced diagnostics. The ensuing fortnight plunged me into an abyss of dread, a velvet black void where time stretched into torment, invasive amniocentesis, hushed powwows with counselors versed in genomes, the interminable vigil for irrefutable verdicts. Marcus, erstwhile the epitome of attentiveness, withdrew into a shell, his nights lost to the flicker of a soundless screen. Evelyn, at each fraught gathering, proffered no solace, merely wails of woe. Heavens, what sin have we wrought? No frailties mar our lineage. Is this divine retribution, Marcus? The verdict crashed upon me like a guillotine's fall. Trisomy 21. You grasped the implications. Alina, the counselor, a gentle soul with eyes etched by empathy, interlacing her fingers atop her blotter. The gestational window permits termination. If that's your course, ponder deeply. Confer with your partner on the seismic ripples of nurturing a child with unique needs, the toll on your union, your horizons. Reflection was superfluous. No ledger could sway me. A soul stirred within, a beacon amid my lingering ruins. The latest imaging had unveiled her truth. A daughter, my luminous girl, and should she arrive etched with distinction, she would be wholly mine, the sole radiance salvaged from half a decade's debris. I'm proceeding with the pregnancy, I declared, my tone a blade through the office's clinical hush. Marcus, who'd fixated on the ceaseless parade of vehicles beyond the pane, uttered not a syllable. The true tempest ignited as we breached the pristine confines of his parents' drawing room that dusk. Evelyn Hale's shriek pierced the air, rattling the antique sconces overhead. Have you taken leave of your senses? Why inflict that flawed being upon existence? You'll sabotage your prospects, Marcus's trajectory ours entire. Excise it forthwith, before regret seals your fate. Mother, temper your ire. Marcus ventured feebly, but I discerned the fracture in his gaze. He teetered firmly in her camp. I cannot, I countered, my knuckles whitening on the settee's arms, anchoring my poise to shield the fragile spark within. This is our daughter. Evelyn howled, a hand splayed dramatically across her bosom. Shall be an anchor, a shadow dragging you under eternally. Do you fathom the abyss awaiting you and Marcus? He envisioned an unmarred clan, flawless offspring, a pristine canvas. Evelyn, modulate your tone. Victor interceded, receding into the settee's plush embrace. And presume not to address me so intimately, you presumptuous upstart. She jabbed a quivering digit at me, shattering her own edifice of refinement. You are excised from this fold forthwith. Purge that aberration, or depart these halls. Marcus, compel her election. Marcus mustered no lucid retort. He merely ferried me to our least haven, in a pall of stunned, self-lacerating quietude. That night, as unrest banished slumber, he perched on the bed's brink. Contact forbidden, Alina, he murmured, his timbre stripped of tenderness. Perhaps mother's wisdom holds. Why court such strife? Youth favors you. We might endeavor anew, conceive a robust heir, an ordinary one. I pivoted, beholding the truth in his eyes, not grief, nor mere chagrin, but visceral recoil. He perceived neither vessel nor progeny in us, merely a vexing, costly liability to jettison like a botched venture. Depart, I uttered, the monosyllable, a leaden decree. Simply vanish, Marcus. The balance of gestation unfolded in a veil of stoic isolation. Marcus nominally cohabited, claiming the spare chamber, yet pursued his solitary orbit. He slunk home, tardy, bolted at dawn, conversed in clipped fragments. He forsook prenatal escorts, citing occupational Evelyn rang fortnightly, her queries laced with cloying malice. Pray, have reason dawned? Rectify this blunder ere it's irrevocable. Reason eluded me not. Lila arrived amid a brisk, luminous January dawn, petite creased, bearing the telltale almond eyes and subtle contours of her distinction. Yet, as the midwife nestled her downy form against my heart, and she unveiled those crystalline, guileless orbs, a tempest of safeguarding fervor engulfed me. Primal as an inferno's roar, I comprehended bone-deep that I'd forged the singular righteous path. Marcus materialized at the ward on the fourth dawn. He hovered by the crib, appraised his slumbering offspring for scant moments, then grumbled, "So, content, at last, are you?" He forewent to touch, shunned my bedside, and evaporated wordless. Leela's inaugural anem dissolved into a maelstrom of fatigue and fervor, a carousel of pediatric checkups, milestone evaluations, and regimens with therapists spanning motor skills, sensory integration, and language bridging. Infants graced with trisomy demand, unyielding nurture, ceaseless ignition. I relinquished my clinic ledger. Abandonment felt untenable, least of all to Marcus's kin. He dispensed funds, but grudgingly, each remittance barbed with barbs. How voraciously can physicians train us? She never aligned with the norm regardless. Aiming to beggar me, Evelyn embargoed her granddaughter's very essence. My halting overtures to parade Leela at their manicured manor met glacial rebuffs. "Spare us that anomalide spikes my migraines. This is your mulish folly's reprisal." Alina solitude bore down like an avalanche. My progenitors had long since faded. Intimates from your scattered in the accident's wake. Marcus's circles spurned us outright. Marcus himself escalated his nocturnal wanderings, reeking of spirits, or absented entirely. At Leela's 20th month, the mosaic's cruel shard locked into irrevocability. I padded into the corridor to find Marcus murmuring into his device, oblivious to my tread. "Naturally, I adore you," he cooed, his inflection brimming with the honeyed allure he'd forsaken in our hearth. "Merely navigating a snag presently, a formality. I crave progeny, and I yearned for a wholesome one, unmarred," he faltered. A soft chuckle, slithering forth, arctic as frost. "Will commence forthwith. Once I disentangled this tangle and inked the decrees." I eased the portal shut. An inner filament severed soundlessly. Fury had ebbed. Only a glacial, honed void remained, laced with an odd, buoyant emancipation. At last, veracity reigned, unvarnished and absolute. The ledger of affection balanced to nil. Retribution's hour had tolled. Dawn's light saw Marcus depart for his vaunted vocation. I commandeered the desk. For the first occasion since Leela's advent, my queries veered from solace to self. It ignited serendipitously, a spark amid the gloom. Within a virtual circle, for guardians of exceptional young, a cryptic solicitation surfaced. Advisors sought for curating bespoke learning kits for trisomy youth. Compensation, $450. I fired off a reply. Optimism faint. Within days, a boutique imprint from Portland dialed. They were pioneering a vital series of tailored tomes, enlisting seasoned caregivers attuned to authentic requisites. I dissected their blueprint with forensic zeal, drawing from 20 months of frantic, voracious study. They honored the stipend, but the boon was the perennial pact, a modest stipend anchoring my rebirth. Marcus slumbered through it all. In his solipsistic haze, I lingered the forsaken homemaker, shackled to the loft with the marred mite. I sequestered the nascent stipends, inaugurating an account under my birthright, Elena Busquis. Initial quarters yielded $550 to $800, sculpting lesson arcs and ghostwriting dispatches for niche caregiver hubs beneath an alias. The pivot, the fulcrum of metamorphosis, transpired via Sophia Grant, matriarch of a son, wrestling profound sensory challenges, encountered in a digital advocacy nexus. Sophia, erstwhile a graphic artisan, vented her ire at the dearth of resilience. Budget-friendly aids attuned to divergent neural pathways. Enough lamenting, I hammered back one sleepless eve, electrified by nascent audacity. Cease the gripes, forge them, ourselves. I'll steward the pedagogy and fiscal helm. You orchestrate aesthetics and fabrication. A fortnight on, we enshrined a nascent venture in Washington's registry, ThriveSpark Learning Tools. Sophia tapped a faltering artisan's cope in Tacoma for assembly and dispatch. I helmed the essence and, vitally, the outreach, harnessing the fervent clamor of my embedded forums. Our debut run of 150 tactile puzzle arrays evaporated in 10 days. The follow-up cohort tripled, vanished in 4. By animus close, we'd unfurled a robust e-mart, Sophia and I each harvesting $5,500 to $7,500. Luna. Marcus slumbered oblivious. He'd long forfeited curiosity in my cloistered pursuits. His paramour, Isabella, gleaned from a feigned eavesdrop, was a lithe, ambitious coordinator at a waterfront gym, a decade my junior, harboring visions of lace-veiled nuptials. Evelyn's sporadic missives morphed from entreaties to tocsin. Word is, Marcus has unearthed a fitting consort, vibrant comelian. They plot progeny, fitting progeny. Comprehend, your intransigence demolished him. You wretched ingrate. I absorbed her bile mutely, then severed and resumed my tallies. Her clamor was mere static. I erected ramparts for Leela and me, brick by unyielding brick. Leela flourished, her ascent laborious yet luminous. She toddled at 28 months, voiced monosyllables by. She brimmed with warmth, vivacity, an eternal beam. At the enrichment hub, clinicians marveled at her grit and effulgence. Marcus's disregard us. Fortnights might elapse, sans a glimpse of his progeny. Despite our shared domicile, the bond was a toxic charade. Yet I bided, forging armaments, tenure to swell the enterprise, fiscal fulcrums. By Leela's third spring, autonomy beckoned unchallenged. Thrive's bark surged. Sophia and I broadened to bespoke, tactile landscapes and modifiable literacy kits. Onboarded for freelancers, and etched footholds in 5 commonwealths. My veiled yield crested $12,000. Luna. My inaugural gambit, a calculated reprisal, transpired. The loft acquisition, 950 sun-drenched square feet of sovereignty in my sole nomenclature, seeded by enterprise reserves, liquidated across 9 moons, nestled in a concentric enclave with verdant commons, mere strides from Leela's therapy enclave. Marcus, skimming our communal ledger, overlooked the siphons from my covert vault. Next, the Bellevue Havana steel demanding tender refurbishments. Its half-acre ideal for the herbery I'd envisioned cultivating with Leela's eager trowel. I inscribed the title as Elena Vasquez. Culminating was the First Avenue Nook, a brief venture advance, redeemed in 6 moons via enterprise surplus. Leasing to the cafe yielded Zhou Bai Wu Shermei Yuan funneled unerringly to Leela's endowment. In 5 years, as Marcus dallied with Isabella, lamenting aloud the unspoiled lineage forever forfeited, I'd alchemized from spurned dependent to titan of trade, my trove surpassing $1,650,000, primed for unveiling. And here in this humid Seattle tribunal, where my cherished ward had been branded a parasitic mite, where Evelyn seethed incantations from afar, and where my erstwhile groom clamored for marital remnants, enlightenment dawned. The aggregate valuation of the petitioner's holdings, the magistrate elevated from her sheaf, countenance an enigma, tallies at $1,650,000. Marcus clutched the bench's lip, timber groaning faintly. His hue rivaled the starched cuffs of his bespoke blouse. I locked eyes with him. Our inaugural unfeigned communion in 18 moons and curved my lips in a glacial, triumphant arc. This defies reason, Marcus faltered, appraising me as an impostor who'd commandeered his guise. Whence this fortune? You toiled not. No revenue. The petitioner posits, the respondent idled. Magistrate Harlan articulated, arching over her lenses, a filament of scorn threading her temple. Yet affidavits affirm Ms. Vasquez co-holds a thriving cross-state enrichment firm, tenders bespoke counsel, and sustains a ledger averaging $12,000 lunardies 12 moons. All fiscal trails pristine, levies acquitted, dossiers immaculate. Your Honor, my counsel, Lawrence Kenta poised. Pewter-maned virtuoso. I'd retained a quartet, prior interposed with silken precision, reclining as a sated lion. Evelyn emitted a throttled keen, pawing at her Victor visage, a portrait of capitulation, fumbled for her ever-present cardiac elixir. A prop wielded to underscore how my existence and Leela's ravaged her vitality. You're a pilferer, she bade abruptly, thrusting a palsied liver-flecked talon my way. You plundered my boy, that's his hoard. He bankrolled your idleness, all these orbits, and you, decorum. I decreed decorum. The magistrate's mallet thundered imperative. Mrs. Hale, Lawrence Kent, pivoted languidly toward the pews. Every asset and yield my client amassed accrued via her solitary exertions, extramarital in provenance or demonstrably from the venture she birthed and piloted unaided. Your progeny, Marcus Hale, forfeit stake therein, but I furnished her sustenance. Marcus rallied, his plea shrill with I sustained her and the issue, entitling me to moiety of that empire. To what, precisely, Mr. Hale? Lawrence Kent unveiled the meticulous chronicle of paternal dues. Shall we audit your contributions? Per fiscal imprints, across 5 animes, you remitted an e-mean of $1,450 lunar for the ward's upkeep, against your declared $9,000 stipend. That's scarce, 16%, serviceable, perchance, but stingy for an exceptional youth. I recollected each disbursement's prelude. Marcus unleashed when I petitioned an extra $400 for novel interventions or bespoke apparatus for Lila. He'd bellowed that I bled him barren, that the might devoured all, that unexceptional progeny demanded no such toll. $1,450 luna for a cherub necessitating perpetual experts, premium adaptives, tailored sustenance, and bi-weekly remedial odysseys. I expended thrice that on Lila, all from my self-forged coffers, stewarded and amplified. Moreover, Your Honor, Lawrence Kent pressed, timbre laden with inexorability, I tender attestations from cohorts and confidants verifying the petitioner cohabited not the matriculated spousal domicile, these 3 but exclusively with his we proffer incontrovertible proof. He shirked the ward's rearing, spurned medicinal, evinced nil investment in her vitality, maturation, or erudition. Fabrication, I toiled relentlessly. Marcus vaulted erect, crimson surging, toiling for kin, for prospects. Which kin, Marcus? I interjected at last, inclining forth, my articulation crystalline and serene, amid the chamber's fug. The one way you dubbed your progeny marred and inert, or the bastion you schemed with Isabella. He ossified mandible slack. I possess archives, Marcus. I inclined to my advocate, who brandished a diminutive recorder, innocuous as a fob. I commenced archiving our dialogues. 9 moons passed, discerning divorce insufficient. I craved bull. Lawrence Kent activated, flooding the hall with Marcus's timbre, unfiltered and piteous. I'm wearied of this farce, Isabella, weary of coexisting with that, that anomaly. I crave an unmarred hearth, you fathom, unmarred heirs, and Elena's a mulish dolt who torpedoed my fate. We ought have called it at the medic's decree. Evelyn blanched to alabaster. Marcus cradled his crown, his cosmos fracturing audibly. That's misconstrued, he droned, timbre fracturing, and herein another, Your Honor. The barrister toggled seamlessly. Evelyn's voice ensued, barbed and exultant, counseling her scion for moons gone. At last, you're severing her. Seize the domicile, Marcus. She's a cipher, nil refuge for her spawn. Let her decamp whither she will. You reclaim normalcy with Isabella. She bear vigorous, comely issue, unlike yon wretch. Hush cloaked the arena, viscous and lethal. Magistrate Harlan regarded Evelyn with unveiled revulsion, as if dissecting carrion. I misspoke. My ex-mother-in-law stuttered, scanning for egress, merely fretted from my son's vista. Sufficient. The magistrate hoisted a fatigued yet unyielding palm. We advanced to asset partition. Marcus's solicitor, a brash youth with the swagger of unchecked hubris, evidently remiss in groundwork, stammered pleas for communal accrual, contending the spouse couldn't have birthed prosperity sans the petitioner's foundational hearth. Lawrence Kent eviscerated each thrust with scalpel finesse. The loft, acquired via my client's autonomous funds, titled solely herseful, Fiscal Chronicle appended. The bungalow mirrors it, the retail mirrors it. The firm, enshrined to my client and cohort, Marcus Hale asserts, no juridical, equitable, or ethical lien, but 5 enemies, wed. Marcus erupted, restraint yielding to hysteria, all garnered in matrimony divides equitably. Not wholly, Mr. Hale, the magistrate elucidated with pedagogic patience, inclining to the dais. Codex 42 of Domestic Statute decrees assets from unilateral enterprise or windfall revert to the earner. Your spouse birthed the firm sans your seed capital. Dossiers corroborate. I exact redress, Marcus thundered, knuckles battering oak. I bankrolled her idleness. That's spousal merit. You discharged spousal minima, as Sarand feebly. My barrister parried, timbre forged. My client, contrarize, self-sustained and progeny, outstripping your household infusions. Behold validation. He extracted another flawless dossier. Rent ledgers for the unit, triennium pass from my client's enterprise fisc. Groceries, juvenile garb, medicinals, remedials, all her solitary provenance. The tableau, Your Honor, illuminates starkly formally yoked. Yet these three animes, each navigated independent streams, the crux being my client funneled hers to progeny and hearth, while petitioner lavished his on caprice. I'd archived every docket, imprint, remittance these duo animes, foreseeing Armageddon, digitized, encrypted, cloud-warded, primed for judgment. We proceed to the ward's domicile. The magistrate intoned, riffling ponderous folios. Petitioner seeks the minor, Leela Hale. Abide with the mother. Respondent concurs. I concur. I affirmed softly. Shall I now dissent? Marcus interjected abruptly, timbre splintering. He flailed, glimpsing fiscal Armageddon. All, kin inclusive, gaped. Marcus, what folly! Evelyn breathed. Silence, mother. He convulsed. I claim the progeny. I'm her sire. Might I probe this volte-face's impetus? Lawrence Kent queried, inflection polar. Given petitioner's plenary disengagement in rearing quadrennium past, I'm her sire, Marcus stammered, tongue darting. One merit, and moreover, the mother lacks apt quarters. She clings to leased confines. My client boasts a 950-square-foot loft, cash secured. My counsel reminded dryly. Plus, Bellevue Retreat, her environs surpass adequacy, eclipsing petitioner's plight. But she labors excessively henceforth. Who stewards the might? Marcus clawed phantoms. Mother aids, the selfsame who, per oath and archive, branded your progeny spawn in aberration. Shunning her quadrennium, the magistrate perused, mean calcifying, deem her apt custodian. Evelyn flinched, muted at last. Furthermore, the magistrate pursued, per Juvenile Welfare Bureau, assay, the mother's domain fulfills all edicts. Loft harbors juvenile sanctum, replete with requisites for exceptional nurture. Mother ferries to every savant, invests demonstrably in maturation. You, Marcus Hale, per, that assay forewent, domicile, visitation, annum past. I toiled, Marcus went, toiled or consorted with parent. The magistrate reposted. 3 attestors affirm your alternate abode 14 moons. She divested her lenses, massaging her brows bridge wearily. Mr. Hale, in a quarter-century elevated, I've adjudicated myriad custody clashes. Do you crave the progeny, or is this crass gambit to elude dues? Marcus muted, jowls a furious puce. I petitioned the benchway. Lawrence Kent rose, unleashing the death blow. Petitioner's habitual debasement of the ward, archives and attestors affirm. He wielded slurs, abhorred her being, shunned outings or clinics. Yielding her to such would inflict grievous, enduring psyche wounds. But she perceives not. Marcus detonated, regressing to ancient barbs. Trisomy clouds cognition. Exceptional cognition forfeits sentience not. Mr. Hale, the magistrate severed keenly. Trisomy progeny divine parental tenor, acutely rejections sting paramount. Per the observing savant's ledger, the girl recoils from you, endures acute duress in proximity. I evoked the enrichment sage's tactful query moons prior. Home harmony, intact. Lila, effusive with strangers, shrank behind my hem at Marcus's shadow. Youth discerns, acceptance's chasm from scorn. The bench decrees, the magistrate intoned, timbre resonant as gospel. The minor Leela Hale's domicile vests with mother, Elena Vasquez Hale, sire merits, supervised ingress by second and penultimate Sabbaths, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., under maternal or designee, aegis at impartial venue. Supervised, Marcus sputtered, incredulity erupting. Solitary with my issue denied, given your avowed stance in quadrennial deportment. Oversight safeguards the ward's emotive haven. The magistrate incised his plaint. Demonstrate transmutation. Revisit, for now, thus, on dues, she resumed, eyeing his $9,000 ledger. Bench mandates 28% across revenues, yielding $2,520 lunar. What outrage! Marcus vaulted anew. Indebtedness, encumbrances, I refuse. Statutory quotient for Singleton. The magistrate reposted equably. Appeal if willed, but contemplating the ward's premium medicinals, Savan's perpetual remediation. It's equitable, imperative, but she swims in opulence. Marcus bade, talon jabbing my orbit. Why extract my pittance? Vindictive, dues bind parents to progeny. The magistrate school, your fiscal stature alters, not your onus. Mr. Hale disclaimed not unilaterally. A gravid lull ensued. Precisely, the magistrate inclined gravely. Moreover, bench levies tribunal fees from petitioner to $4,000, plus redress for emotive duress, $6,000, for the orchestrated slights. Fiscal dereliction, abasements inflicted by petitioner and mother. The magistrate's gaze chilled on Evelyn. Archives, oaths, transcripts. If the tally stands, Marcus sagged. Spectral. Evelyn unraveled into his. Victor soothed futilely adrift in pride's rubble. I observed, unmoored. Pristine, arctic reprisal. These souls had scourged Leela and me quadrennium, wielding disdain's arsenal to render me null. All the while, I'd forged sinew, erecting an impervious tomorrow, impervious to their scorn. Proceedings adjourned. The magistrate's gavel cracked. Decree activates 28 days hence. Appeals permissible. Interim. She rose, exiting with a gait wary, yet wrought of equity. I gathered satchel and sheafs. Ascending, Marcus barred the portal's swing. Linger, Alana. We conversed privately. On what, Marcus? I met his desperation with equanimity, his ravaged visage evoking no glee, merely vast apathy. Perhaps haste clouded us. He essayed, donning contrition's mask of vendor's ploy. I aired profoundly but kin endures, Alina. Shared progeny. Relocate to your loft, we recommends. We bore progeny, those 5 animes, I rejoined flatly, palm upraised to repel contact. That deterred not your slurs, nor your dalliance, in Isabella's bower. I've evolved, discern now. He clutched my sleeve, exigency feral. Heedn't have a, I'll transform. Verily. Aid Lila. Lila. I amended, her nomenclature. Nay, Marcus, we, essay not, aught remains. I extricated, striding outbound. Evelyn, mascara rivers carving her cheeks, snagged my cuff. You've eviscerated my son's fate, she rasped, gall dripping. Those exactions that drove you orchestrated this deceit. I schemed not, Evelyn, I reposted, locking her loathing's abyss. I toiled, relentlessly, while you reveled and adjudicated. And the irony, you might have partaken. Grandmother with fervor, venture ally, laurels for your grandkin's triumphs. Pride in a bride who conjured empire from ether. But you elected venom, your forfeit. As Marcus's, I quitted the edifice. Lawrence Kent, shadowing professionally into Seattle's briny October zephyr. For the first epoch, in epoch's emancipation pulsed, authentic, unbound. Leela greeted at the least eunuch's threshold. Nora, my Ada vivacious pedagogy aspirant meshing seamlessly with my cherub had minded her. The girl flung into my embrace, chirping gleefully, her diction at 4 years a mosaic, yet her intent luminous. Mama returned. She clung, and the tribunal's residue ebbed into her sturdy, fragrant reality notes of beeswax crayons and autumn gusts in her curls. How fared she, Nora? I queried, inhaling her crown. Splendid, Alina. We delved a stellar phonics whirl, romped the terrace, devoured midday repast. I, Leela. Nora beamed at her charge. A tad fractious pre-siesta, but merely pining for Mama. I compensated Nora, ushered her forth, claiming the hush I craved. Sofa-bound, I drew Leela astride her nook. She burrowed, digit-questing mouth a vestige unvanquished and peered with those pellucid, fiduciary depths. Mama, she breathed abrupt. Papa, I stilled, his invocation rare. Perchance she divined my denouement's tremor, the court's finalities poll. Papa visits anon, I modulated, phrasing with precision. Intermittently, yet our hearth abides you and I. Petal, solely us. Concord, she bobbed, legal arcana veiling her ken, yet fealty absolute. She nestled shoulderward. I divined, surer than any fiscal pivot, rectitude's triumph. Whatever ensued, my girl secured, hearth, nurture, fealty unconditioned denied by her nominal sire. That twilight, Sophia rang, endured the fray. Her timbre wove guardianship's weave. How bore the beast the unmasking? I sketched Xena. Sophia absorbed, interjecting airs flares. May that wretched refuse shun you henceforth, she avowed. Ire threading, though such ilk persists sympathies ploy, menaces, number, transmutes morrow. I reposted, surveying the least husk wreaking Marcus's apathy. And relocation to the loft next September. Why Terry Twain? The haven, procured an umprior, stood consummate. I'd ferried chattels incrementally, adorning with devotion. Sanctum prep, that's essence Elena. Sophia exalted, dawn your epoch. No ret. Incidentally, tidings, recall franchising discourse. Franchising our semestral reverie. A quantum vault, thrive sparks paradigm thrived. Clamor clamored replication. Verily, I ignited, tribunals yoke dissolving. Tangible tenders, quadruple Burge, Alena, Portland, Denver, Austin. Investors primed for infusion. craving our scaffold and national assent. We dissected legalese, yield partitions, expansions, Vista War 90 minutes, disconnecting. I grinned, unbridled. Existence not endured. It burgeoned, radiant. Morrow heralded exodus, boxing marital specters with sundries. Leela exulted in the loft, paramount her boudoir, buttery ochre walls, a nestling cot, bespoke ThriveSpark modules, self-wrought, plush we've blanketed, ideal for tactile romps. Mine, she proclaimed, scampering inward, timbre, echoing delight. My sanctum, mine, yours, blossom. I crouched, enfolding, our abode henceforth, fond, vigorous nod, then diversion to tiered playthings, chromatic allure, beckoning. Marcus essayed ingress, third post-tribunal dawn. I screened, his sigil pulsing with wry detachment. Relentless chimes, then chorea, discourse imperative, respond. Crisis, I barred all conduits. Hourly, Evelyn's cipher. We crave Leela's sight. Grankin writes, convoke calmly, Lil Lullabarbert, to sequester. This crone who'd shunned her quartet animes, now invoked bonds. Curt, court decree delimits rights. Mrs. Hale, for ingress. Engage Lawrence Kent for neutral oversight. Thereafter, salvo ceased. I exhaled provisional, presuming capitulation. Yet decennium on Marcus's venal crux bared. Returning from Leela's biweekly articulation clinic, October's unseasonal balminess cloaking Seattle, Leela ambled hand in hand, intoning a self-soothing ditty in her lyric tongue. At the edifice's ward, Marcus materialized from alcove's gloom, haggard, decade-weathered, orbits bruised, violet, swathed in rumpled twill. Lila rigidified terror, coiling her frame to mine. Alina evadnat, he launched, timbre-rending, solely parley. 5 ticks, no more. Not to parley. Marcus, eyesight. He mirrored, obstructing, linger, implore. Clawing dread-laced not for us, but his capsizing art. I'm unmoored, grasp, dues exactions, I scarce service, the piety, terra. Isabella fled Alina, motherest, and this concerns me how. I cinched Leela's grasp, veiling her posterior. Shundus, you're affluent, why pilfer my scant $2,500? He pawed my scapula, digit spice-like. I wrenched free, retreating, pulse-thundering guardianship's blaze. Not mine, Marcus. I iced timbered lethal. Thy daughters for remediation, blossoming, tomorrow. And deem not I'd forfeit for the deserter's straits, but whither serves it? He amplified, garnering a neighbor's sight. She never norm. Why lavish on futility? Lila whimpered, burying in my cloak's folds. Vanish. Fury crested, eclipsing all but her Egypt. Now, Marcus, or summon constables for decree breach. But thy faulting, he gnashed, snarl, contorting. He did not savant. Ne'er birthed yon, utter it. I transfixed, optics, glacial forges. The epithet you heaped on thine issuanum. He hushed, heaving, vestige of rectitude striking. Worst, Marcus, I cradled, sobbing Leela. Not penury, nor paramour's flight. Thy incomprehension of forfeiture. A daughter, prodigious, benevolent, astute. I, distinct, yet she'd adored fiercely on scant grace. You withheld, and now, irrevocably tardy, I circumvented, hastening Leela inward. He pursued not. Aloft, eons rocked her, crooning cradle songs, palms tracing till tremors ebbed. Lawrence Kent apprised, decree infraction, intimidation ward alarmed, pattern merits, rights curtailment, bide duodons. I counseled, loath tribunals, mire, perchance peril penetrated, yet duodons, reprise, Marcus loitering, sans the clinic's arbor, renewed aggression, humiliation, terrorized Leela. I petitioned curtailment forthwith. Lawrence drafted, annexing oaths and edifice sentinels capturing his stalk, hearing cued December's cusp. Curiously, Marcus absented, his proxy pled deferral. Harlan quashed sans parley, bench curtailed ingress, to Luna, solely under welfare custodian. Post-decree Marcus Hale, evaporated from our tapestry. Dues, however, clocked punctual firsts, auto-siphoned, reunion eluded. Annam blurred to duo. Leela quintupled, she matriculated specialized pre-primaria, sages tailoring her odyssey. Phenomenal vaults, polysyllabic cascades, numeral fluency 212, script savant prophesied mainstream ingress with scaffold by ThriveSpark sprawled to septenary commonwealths. Nineri, franchise alchemy, gleamed. Sophia and I'd transatlantic Ontario, perhaps Dublin. My yield ascended $18,000 lunar. Lila's bustin swelled, endowments for academia, remediation, exigencies, eternal, aegis, lifelong. I encountered Julian at a coastal expo in Monterey. He crafted precision orthotics for juvenile mobility reclamation. Shop talk ignited, digits swapped. Soon, symbiotic on haptic novelties, then courtship. Julian, sundered, ex-consort, westward, childless, Leela's tale and distinction divulged. I braced for recoil. Retreat, norms, invocation, NIL. When rendezvous with her, Alina, they bonded instantaneous. Julian, attuned to Leela, serene, enduring, then no infantilizing coup, no fragility's glaze. He embraced her singularities, radiance. Working these prodigies, he confided, one hushed eve, loft kitchen still post Leela's slumber, normalcies, a phantom, divergence defines us. Trisomy for one, myopia crippling another, phobias felled third, merely variances some glaring, all human, craving accord. I regarded him, cognizing. Thus partnership dawned. Thus devotion we wooed nigh anim, ere cohabitation broached. I demurred, initial fearing Leela's flux, yet she adored Julian. Unca Jules, her cant, heralded his tread with glee. One Vespa, Moon's post-merger, an alien cipher pulsed. Victor Hale, Evelyn succumbed yesternight. Cardiac cataclysm. Marcus flounders, bid outreach. Craves progeny at obsequies for catharsis. Implores, I parsed long. Evelyn deceased. The toxin hood decreed excision. Aberrations brand. Sentiment, vacuity, fevers shatter to chill void. I shan't, I avowed to Julian. Proffering text, nor expose Lila. Traumas, needless for either. He enfolded, asper the right for phantoms. Victor's dispatch. Condolences sincere. Attendance denied. Future via Lawrence. Septet. On Victor's timbre, enervated antiquities rasp. No warrant to entreat Alina, but Marcus found us. Postmothered spirits ravage, vocation sundered quinqua prior, foreclosure looms, craves progeny, once. Adieu say, adieu I knit brow. Whither bound, Victor, pause, choke, traversing wire, suicide murmurs, he confessed tremulous, verity veiled, but dread consumes. Antiquity and ailment hubble, vigilance fails, should calamity strike, I perish. Assent, I exhaled. Closures, pull edging grudge, singular conclave, savant and I presiding, sobriety and lucidity, preconditional, child unscathed, conclave cued subsequent dawn at enrichment nave, Mira, Lila's, Sagjo Corinth, with Arsagakan scented oversight. Marcus, punctual, transfigured, emaciated, bisticade aged, ashen defeat, attired crisp, yet fraying at seams, Lila veiled, posterior at sight, hemplich vice, salutations, he ventured dulcet, genuflecting ungainly to her eye, Leela recall, Papa here, mute, she adhered, peeking hip, Papa he fissured, lacrim brimming, your papa and I avow remorse, forgive, pray, Leela appraised the quaking enigma warily, dire Papa, he pursued, eyeing her utterly, dire, forsook, love, nurture, wrought horrors unforgivable on you, errant, for your resplendent virtuous and I lament tardy epiphany, he smeared optics, sleeve-ward, smear lingering, seek not pardon, he elevated to me, merely impart, faults, not thine, blame vests mine alone, regret shadows my span for you, Alina Leela astounded, advanced, tentative, proffering palm not embrace, but courteous valediction, Papa, she articulated lucid, bye-bye earnest, Marcus clasped her diminutive grace, visage imploding, farewell, we Leela, he Persian joyous, vital, thrive, valedictions, seal, Marcus hail, receded perpetual dot trio, animes accrued, mending, abundance, Lila septenary, primaria mainstream scaffolded, coterie, academics lagged, yet zeal unquenched, disposition sola, allies, bloomed effervescent lass, Zoe, condimate, literacy, numeracy, burgeoned, deliberate, she pirouetted, sketched, reveled, cohorts. I espoused Julian in subdued right parchment sealed fate, intimate with Sophia, Victor, intimate scant at Bellevue's verdant now idle, Lila rapt, Julian transcended uncoveritable, benevolent sire, formal adoption ensued, Marcus, via proxy, waved sans demur, Thrive Spark nationalized, enrichment colossus, facilities, tri-state I-platform bespoke for exceptional kind-tailored odysseys, IO-rated, nationals, fielded profiles, etched savant in trisomy advocacy, guardianship, vanguard, zenith, felicity profound, beloved progeny, devoted consort, venture benevolent, I'd conjured reveries from desolation's nadir, ledger bound in least dim, tomorrow veiled, one russet autumn gloaming, Lila nonagenary, Victor rang, epochs sundered discourse, semestrial remittances, veiled compassionate sustained as solitude, ailment's grip, antiquity merited grace, despite Evelyn's, Marcus's scourge, Marcus perished, he rasped preempt, cauter antecedent, hepatic ruin, interred him yesternight, Alina, solitary tacit. I pondered invocation, Crody's reverberant mingled reliefs chime, he bid relay, Victor pressed, tambour rending, gratitude for Leela's glimpse terminal, soul lumen his crepuscule and sorrow, Victor, I murmured, nay, he sighed, lassitude abyss, puffs, self-wrought as all, I crave grandkin glimpse, and, if senility and scourge hasten, mortality near-side, behold her once, Alina solely, accord, I relented, his desolations heft Saturnine proxima, hours, grace glimpse, yet no recurrence, for her, not bridges, benedictions, quiet, rending laced, benedictions Alina, he manifested Saturnine with cascades of ivory and amber lilies, confectioner's trove, Lila wary, fearless, Victor enthroned armchair, devouring her play, optics rapt, as she unveiled Scola sketches, dance floor, he inclined, nodding, smiled brittle antiquities, prodigious, he breathed, eloquence, can vast we sightless dolts, phantom chase, I escorted thresholdward gloaming's chill, Epiphany's crown, he pivoted, vespertine facing, felicity nested here in this bright, thy verity, we pursued chimeras unmarred issue hearth, vita pristine, normalcy, our Marcus nom hail, triumphs, skies, whither now, thy Leela, distinct, pulses, revels, replete, we misprized felicity till exile, he departed, reunion eluded, senility claimed sextile moons hence slumber's hush, in barren flat, I persisted, rearing, enterprise ascent, consort's love, tomorrow's forge, vespertine vigils, Lila somnolent, I contemplated Odyssey from tribunal's roar, X's denial of parasitic might, their visages cataclysm at the mendicant's empire, contempt's citadel's crumbling ash, notion, apathy profound, path selective, there's forfeit value, mine accrued essence, life's austere arithmetic, certitude, Leela ne'er hears unwont, ne'er senses flaw, upbringing, steeped love, absolute, nurture vowed, veneration deep formerited, as every cherub terrestrial, aught else, trifling, retrospect gleams revelation, cosmos tests fracture to ASA resurgences for Orboff squandered validating unworthy arbiters, yet validation's crux, progeny's beam, Lila schooled unconditional's core, fortitude whispers, not thunder's patient, pain defiant, genesis, moral's kernel, suffer no definer of worth, rebirth from embers viable one love's deed, valor's choice iterative, tempest yields not reprisals, balm, but liberties, self-venerance's peace. If resonance stirs, a firm dispatch acclaimed this recital, tally kindred spirits, intrigued, whence viewest thou, what hour reigns, chronicle below, sustain voyage, modest boon graces, gratitude for temporal trove, more sagas, channels troves, visage unveils duo novelties, assured delights, engage, immerse, forthwith, affection.